Masechta Menochos Daf Kuf Ches Amar Aleph, with starting from the top line where it says Kula Kechiskia. Kula Kechiskia Loy Amri. First, let's say there were a couple of opinions to why they had 6 out of the 13 shofres. So we started off with saying that Chizkiah said the reason for it is that we were afraid that it would be one pushka, and one day they wouldn't have so many kabanas, so you couldn't leave the mizbeach empty. So what would they do? They would take out money from the pushka, buy a karmeila, and the kohanim benefited from that. How? They got the skin, leather skin. They were able to make talis bags, tablecloths. Everything was made out of beautiful leather. So the other Kohanim will say, hey, you're chopping from the pushka. This is a general pushka. You guys took a day, and you got so much money out of it. So they made separate pushkas. There were mishmarim, right?
So every
mishmar had bati avis, Kohanim that worked every day. And for every day, it was a separate pushka. So for that day they took from the pushka was their own pushkas. They weren't so jealous. Rabbi Yochanan says, no. The reason why they created these 6 shofres, because when it was a big pile of money, on the bottom the money would become fashimel. So therefore, no, let's make a whole bunch of pushkas. Ziri said, no, you need it for every animal that they bought, a separate pushka. If it was a bull, par, pushka, bull. Egel, a calf, pushka, calf. The same thing, ayil, kevis, that's how they did it. You're going to tell me par and egel is the same thing. It's just a younger bull. It's a calf. Right. So, but we go according to the sheet of Rebbe that says that if somebody promised to give an egel a calf and he gives a bull, he's not yetzer. So they're 2 separate things. Bapada came and he says it's against the corresponding the parim that were given for chatas tzibah if the son had made a mistake, and they designated an animal for kapara and it got lost, and then they got it back, so they sell it. That money was for that kind of animal that got lost from designated. One push with that. And then Eilim meaning Asham Eilis that got lost. And they found the original one that also, and the Kvasim that was used for Asham Tzeda.
So 13 was enough? 13 was enough?
There was 6 out of the 13. Why did they have this 6? So we're telling you about this 6.
But you said so many different things so far.
Yeah, and my son is I'm telling you only 6 out of the 13. There's other things as well. But my son,
the other 7 for?
I have to look back, but we had them. But my son is Kufches, the top line. Kula Kechiskia. I didn't start yet. And my sons were what? That let's say they put down money for an animal and the price fell. So when the price fell, they were left with money. So what did they do with that money? In the pushka called Meisaris. And then they had the Ma. Ma was this special coin, kolbein. What was it for? Because when you gave a machzah shekel, the shekel would be rubbed off. So they had to, just in case it wasn't exact, so they would add a kolbein. So that normally went into the pushka of shkolim. But if it happened to be 2 people that bought that are joining in 1 shekel, each one out of the shekel are giving a matzah shekel, so they would only have to bring 1 kolbein, because it gets only rubbed. 1 coin gets rubbed off as a kolben size, that value of a kolben. But here they said no, you got to have 2 kolbens because the Beis Hamikdash shouldn't lose, because they always got for every half a shekel a kolben. So that extra half a shekel that went to the tzedakah. Says Gemara, now we're starting. Nobody wants to agree with Chizkiah. The reason for the separate pushkas is because the Kohanim are going to be jealous and fight. Says for fighting, they're not. That there's no concern about. Because every day it's understanding. Every day you cover this. Every base of served that day, so it had nothing to do with other Kohanim. It belongs to them. Why they start a fight for nothing?
Nobody fights with the pushka from a shengshul.
Oh, because he put it in his pocket already. Can't even touch it. You can't. We don't want to say like Rabbi Yochanan, who says that we're afraid that the money on the bottom is going to get all fashimot. Well, I push it like a chashimon. We're not worried about the Hashemah coins. Coins polish it. It's all right.
What's my money should be?
Yeah. Kizeire lo yamri. Like Zire, he says they made for each animal that you bought, a par, a eagle, say they made a pushka separately. Says because it doesn't make sense that you made one for a bull and one for a calf. What was your answer that you made it separate? Because Rabbi, a Yachid, said that if you promised an eagle and he brought a bull, you're not yoitza. He says that's a Yachid. I don't want to paskin like a Yachid. I don't want to say like Bapoda. He says it went for the Kabbanis that were lost and it went for the Maisaris. So he says because first of all, Maisaris, you had a special pushka for something that was that was leftover money. Says you want to call it nami Maisaris. All the other Kabbanis that you're talking about, it got lost and they found it. That's called Maisaris as well. Why would you make a special pushka for that? And then Ma Nami, and then you said they had a special Ma that they separated from the regular shkolim box. Says Gemara, Ma Nami lishkolim azle went into the shkolim box. So why would you think that a special pushka? The Tanya that we learned in the Brais, where did this extra kalboin, which made up for the full amount of matzah shogeg, go to? Lishkolim, to the pushka of shkolim. Those are the words of Meir. Went to Nadava. But Bepel Mamish, when it comes to Paskin, a Mishnah, the Mishnah in Shkolim is a Stam Mishnah. Since it's a Stam Mishnah, Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Meir said that it went into the same pushka as the Shkolim. Okay, Zakt Yimar Shmuel Amar. Shmuel says, what were the six pushkas for, 6 shayfres for, Keneged, Meisad Meichatas, the leftovers of the money of a chatas. Meaning, if he designated a money for a carbon and the price fell, so it went for the leftover money. It went into that pushka. This is where we have to remember. He says one of the 6 is Hasid Saifa of Shalkoin Gadol. Hasid Saifa was the Minchas Chavitin. That half they brought for the Tamid Shalbeika and Tamid Shalbein Abayim. Half and half. That was the Asid Saifa. So of the Kohen Gadol, that if there was leftover money there, it went for that pushka. Rabbi Yisha Amai says the same thing.
And sat in the pushka.
And sat in the pushka. Whenever the Mizbeach was empty, you would buy a carbon and put it on it.
So why didn't you have to make it in separate pushkas?
Because each one has different dinim. What do you want to start
No,
with?
you say you're taking out the money and you're
No, but he says like this, each one had Lamashla Hasham Ilays and Hasham Gzeles. They're kvasim b'nei shnatayim, 2 years old. Okay? When it comes to Hasham Nazav, Hasham Etzreira, it's only b'nei shana.
But you say if money's left over, you put it into this.
So you knew if you're taking, if you took from the pushka of Hasham Nazav, Hasham Etzreira, you had to buy a cheaper one. You had to buy a 1-year-old.
Oh, okay.
Or if you took from the Hasham Hills, Hasham Zelos, you have to know this is. It said the amount of money that you're spending because this one is a kevis of 2 years. This one kevis of 1 year.
Money for certain kind of then you take it from this place.
Right.
Where we designated for it. Okay.
Correct. They had different dinim, different. That's why they were in different categories. Says Gemara, Rabbi Yishama says the exact same thing. The only one that he argues and he replaces is Asir Seifa, and he puts in instead of Asir Seifa Kinin. Kinin were brought for a woman who gave birth. She had to bring 2 kabanis, one for a chatas, one for a eila, or a mitzayda who's a ani or a zava. That's what it goes for, and I will say it inside. Rabbi Yishama, can I get my chatas and my shama, here is where he takes out Asid Saifa and he puts in Kinim. Is the same as Shmuel.
How does he do that?
Oh, why didn't Shmuel say like Rabbi Yisha that it's for Kinin, not for Asid Saifa? He says Kinin. We already learned that it's amongst the other 7. There were 13 altogether. We're talking about the 6 out of the 13. Kidin is already one of the pushkis from the 7. Says Gemara, Rabbi Yishia, Tani, and Rabbi Yishia learned 13 shofars in the Mishnah, but like Tani Kinin. You want to say amongst the 13, the other 7, he didn't learn Kinin, he before did learn Kinin.
Yeah,
So how could he learn now again in the 6th Kinin?
The Toseifa, yeah.
V'hatani, Rabbi Yishia v'tani Kinin, we learned in the Brais Beferish, when he mentions all the 13 shofars, in the first 7 is Kinin.
Yeah.
So how could you say Kinin again a second time? So he said, no problem. Kadli Kinin. One is for the shame, the carbon of Kinin. Chad, let me say Kinin. One is going on the leftover money. If you paid too much money and then it'll follow the price. Two separate one. One is the actual for the carbon Kinin, and one is the leftover money that went in another pushka.
Was there a special pushka for the extra money?
So that's no. He's not with that day yet. This is a different shita. Talking about Rabbi Yishia. What is Rabbi? My time of Layam Kishmol. Why didn't he say instead of Kinin? Let him say Asir Seifa. Says you want to have a look at the Amma Moisa shall Asir Seifa shall Koyin Gadol Yirkav. He says that the Moisa, the leftovers of Asir Seifa, has to rot. Because the only ones that you could take the money.
The money has to rot?
No, the Seilis and the Shemen. Oh. And even if you sell it, since the Seilis and the extra Shemen, says the Shemen, were extra, had to rot, and you went ahead and sold it, so the money you have to throw in the Yamamelech. You can't have enough. So he says, why? Because only which kabbanis could you have enough from? Chatos. If he's designating a real chatos. But this is not a real chatos. It's not coming to forgive on any sin. Says the Gemara, the Tanya that we learned in the Brayso, Meisa minchas linadava, Meisa mincha yirkav. The Meisa minchas of a minchas chayta, if it's a real, if it's for a sin, that would meaning if it's for a sin, so then taka the money goes for the dava. But Meisa mincha, but the Meisa mincha of the chavitim of sins that the Kohen Gadol brought, that's yirkav. My karma. What's the kavanah of the Brayso? When it says, because you look in the Brayso, it doesn't say clearly. It says twice the same thing. And then it says what is it? Which one is it? Is it l'nedava or it's yirkav? Does it go to charity or it gets rot? You leave it to rot. So he explains. Chisda says the first one is minchas chayta, that goes l'nedava. The second one that we said Yirkav is the Moisa Sis Heifa Shal Kohen Gadol. That's Yirkav.
That's right.
Okay, yes. Rabbi Amar, Fil Moisa Sis Heifa Shal Kohen Gadol Nami LeNadava. Rabbi says it does go for Nadava because the Torah does call it Chatas. If you look in the pasuk, it says Beferish. I had it before, but it said Beferish that it's called a Chatas. Here it says. So there you see he calls it chatas, even though it's not a real chatas. So Rabbi says even Moises his Heifa Kohen Gadol also goes from Nadava. Only which one is was the pasuk the Brayso referring to that you have to let it rot? That's referring to a Moisa Teda, which is bechlal, not a chatas. Okay. There's other Amoraim who argue in the same machlokes. Beplukta, this machlokes of Chizva Rabbah, right? Is we find in the Brayso similar to this machlokes. Meisa Asir Seifa Shal Kohen Gadol, Rabbi Yochanan Amar l'nedava. Asir Seifa goes l'nedava. That's like Rabbah, and Rabbi Lazar Amar Yirkav. That goes like Rabbi Yishia. Meisa, effectively, Marakasha Meisa Shkol in Chulin. We said the leftover of shkolim.
There's no halacha. Nobody paskins here. What to do?
The halacha is usually like Rab Meir before that we said.
The Gemara doesn't mention any halacha.
That benegay to the moist that they put in the kolbein went into the pushka of the shkolim. Over here, this part I don't see what the halacha is like.
How does the Rambam or anybody paskin if there's all machlokas in here? Everybody has different opinions. So how does he paskin?
They usually have a marker for it. Okay, let's go. Meisa, in fact, Yimara Akasha from a Mishnah in Shkolim. It says Meisa Shkolim Chulin that the extra money that somebody designated for Shkolim too much money for the Machzah Shekel. So the leftover money it's considered as chulin. He doesn't have to give it to Hagdish. Umaysa Asir Seifa. What about the Asir Seifa that you designated a price and it fell and you're left over with money? Or Umaysa Kinizovim, Vikinizav, Vikiniyoldas, or the pair of birds that's brought for a Zav or Zavis or for a woman who give birth.
They have extra money.
So and it left over with extra money. Oh, the Chatois Vashomis, Maiseil in the Dava. Their extras go to the Dava. But look where it says in the what does it say in that Mishnah? Asir Seifa. So you see Asir Seifa, the extra money by Asir Seifa goes for Nadava. And we don't say Yirkav.
Yeah.
That's my love, is it or not? My Asir Seifa Shal Kayin Gadol. When it said in the Mishnah Asir Seifa, it's referring to the one of the Kayin Gadol that he brought one in the morning, the Tamid, half of it, and half at night. So you see, if you don't say Yirkav, how did Shmuel say? Rabbi Yishia said it's Yirkav. Says Gemara Loi. It's not referring to the Asir Seifa of the Kayin Gadol. Asir Seifa, that term is used for another mincha. Moisa minchas chayta. Could be talking about a minchas chayta is also brought to Asir Seifa, and that's what he's referring to. Moisa minchas chayta, which is a chatas. By carbon chatas, we say the moisa of a chatas goes to linadava. Only if it's not a chatas, it doesn't go to linadava. And they hold Asir Seifa of Kohen Gadol, even though they call it chatas, but it's not for a sin. Okay, it's reasonable to say, Commander Omar, Moisa Asir Seifa Shal Kohen Gadol, Yirkav. Here you go.
Oh, here we have some.
Okay, here you go. That it's here you go. The Tanya that we learned in the Braisa. It says by Minchas Chayta. It says Loi Yasim Aleha Shemem Elayitna Aleh Leveinu. We had it so many times. The Minchas Chayta. You cannot bring a nice. You have to make it unfancy. No fanciness over here.
Yeah,
dry. No shemen. No leveinu. Nothing.
Give him flour alone.
That's it. That's right. Kichatas he. It says because it's kichatas he is extra. Amar Av Yehuda. What's this extra word? He kruya chatas. Only this, which is called a chatas. Only this asir seifa is a real chatas. But the asir seifa that the Kohen Gadol brought in the morning of that ain't a Korea chatas. It's not. Oh yeah. Oh, he's gonna leave it. Al asir seifa shall Kohen Gadol. Shein a Korea chatas. Utuna leveina. It did have leveina. It needed leveina. So for that, it's Yirkav. And says Gemara, "Medeina Korea chatas."
Because of leveina, that's why it's Yirkav.
That shows you that it wasn't for a real chatas. And something that's not a chatas is Yirkav. And since it's not called a chatas, we know it's called chatas, but it's not called a chatas as bringing brought for a sin. Moisa Yirkav. So the leftovers are Yirkav. Here you have that lacha. Zag the Mishnah. Show you the oila. This ox is a oila, and it fell a mum. It got a mum. Says Gemara, if he wants, he can bring 2 oxen in one instead. Why? Because he says shoyzeh. Only this shoyer is going to be oila. But if the shoyer is not going to be able to be as a carbon,
so why you have to bring?
So he's part from a carbon. So he got a mum. He sold it. So now he can buy whatever he wants because he's not mechuyev to give.
He can bring whatever he wants.
He can bring whatever he wants.
So why does he say only 2?
So why
That's what he's trying to say. It was a 1 carbon that he brought, that he designated, and it got a mum. Now he can do whatever the heck he wants. He can bring 2. I can bring 5. I can do whatever I want.
I think maybe nothing also.
Shvadim Eilu. Oila, he says, do these 2 oxen, only these. And they got a mum. Ratza, if he wants, he can buy 1 instead of 2. He can switch it around because it doesn't represent what he brought originally.
Out of the picture.
Because what he said originally, only these 2, and if it doesn't happen, my responsibilities are off, and if I could change to whatever I want.
But if he says he doesn't want to bring anything.
No,
he says
money,
the if he wants to, he can bring 1.
He can bring 1 or he can bring 4. He can change it around.
But if he doesn't want to bring anything,
no, the money is already holy. It was designated as a carbon. So what do you do with the money? You buy something, a carbon for it. Okay, Rabbi Oisa, he made a nadava, so he gives it. Rabbi Oisa, Rabbi says it's forbidden. He says you have to stick to whatever you promised. But he says only b'di elvad, because l'chatchila you have no responsibility. L'chatchila. He said only these are he's responsible, and they got a mum, so that responsibility is off. But he says in order that it's not like it shouldn't look like he's changing from what he brought before, that we would think
That can
he
be
can make a
a show.
promise. He can make a promise one way and give it another way. We don't want that. So, but the ever, it's good, but l'chatchila, it's no good. Ayil zeh oila. He says only this ram is going to be for oila. When this time he got a mum, imratza, if he wants, yav b'dam keves. He can buy cheaper. He can buy a shapsula. Keves zeh oila. He says this shapsula, only this one. And this time they got a mum. He says imratza yav b'dam ayil. He can bring something bigger. Rabbi Yisa, Rabbi says no, he cannot bring
Whatever he
bigger.
promises.
Whatever he promised, and even though l'chatchila, only l'chatchila, but b'diavad, he really doesn't have a responsibility to keep to his neighbor. Okay, in the beginning of the Mishnah, what do we say? If the shayr, he says, this shayr is for Ayla, and they got a mum. So if he wants, he can bring two. So the Gemara is going to bring a contradiction. You said, then, right? You said somebody who makes a neder in the end of the previous Mishnah, Kovzayin Amud Beis. Somebody makes a neder to bring a shayr for 100, and he brings two shvarim for 100. He's not Yitzah. So how can we? That's what the Rabbi said. Yeah. So how is it possible here to buy two shvarim with the money of one shayr? He said only shayr. His shayr is there. How can he go ahead and change it to two shvarim? Says he want this Mishnah is different. Shayr zeh, when he said shayr zeh in the stove and I got a mum shiny, that's different. Once he said zeh, and he got a mum, he doesn't have any more responsibility to stick to his neighbor. It says somebody who says shnei shvarim elu oila, only these two shvarim in the stavu, and these shvarim, these oxen got a mum. Ratz, if he wants, he have a b'tmeim echad, he can buy now one. Rabbi says it's also. In fact, you want to buy timer. Why is Rabbi answering? He has no more responsibility to keep to his original neder. Because it's considered that he made a neder to bring a big animal, and now he's bringing a small, even though it's two. But he's bringing a small animal. Even though in this case of our mission is talking about that it got a mum, nevertheless, and so he should have been mutter to bring one shayr. Nevertheless, the chatchila lo shari. Rabbi says chatchila don't do it because the looks.
Nice.
What do you say? The semantics. They say the way it looks doesn't look right. So even though he's not going to be, he's yaitza. In fact, you want to believe nami bereisha. He says let Rabbi argue on the chacham even by the first case where he says shoyzeh oila that he can buy shnei shvarim, and Rabbi argues why didn't right away in the beginning of the Mishnah say Rabbi Yosef? Why do we say it only at the end? And the Gemara, Rabbi is a nice guy. He says, I'm not going to intervene. Let them finish the whole conversation. And then I'll say my opinion. So Rabbi really argues on the whole thing. He waited for the Rabbanon to finish their words. He says, and then he says, now I argue on everything you said. Says the Gemara, take the araya. Because we learned in the Mishnah, ayil zeh oila. He says this ayil is oila in the stuff, and they got a mum. Ratza, if he wants, yavi b'dam of keves, he can buy a shepsla or keves zeh oila. He says this shepsla is oila. In the stuff, he got a mum. Ratza, if he wants, yavi b'dam of ayil, he can buy a big animal. But Rabbi says it's aser. So he says even in a case where he buys a cheshve carbon, he still says it's also. So you see, Rabbi argues even and everything. Shmamina. So you have a raya that Rabbi argues on all the above mentioned dinim.
Whatever you say, that's what you got to do.
Yep. It says Gemara Yibaylahu. The Chachmei Yeshiva asked the kasha. Miminu lemina mai. What's if he promised one type of animal and he brings a different animal? Could he do that? Like he says, shoyzeh oila, and then it got a mum. And instead of a shayr, he buys rams. Says, you want to touch my coming in? I'll answer you.
What does Rebbe say?
What do you mean?
What's the shayla? Rebbe says
if he promised,
well,
we're talking about now the Chachamim. We'll talk about Rebbe also.
Okay.
Tashma, come in here. He says, shoyzeh oila in the stove, and they got a mum. Lo yavi. He cannot buy an ayil. Aval maybe b'dam of shnei ayil, but he could buy two rams.
One is done.
One is no, because it's like he went bigger to smaller. So the Chacham said to smaller, not In the Al Mishnah it says you could.
Yeah.
But this Braisa says faket. We're going to have to understand. The Gemara is going to ask.
Why
Here
is
you
that?
see that the Chachamim say if you went from bigger to smaller, it's usher. And in Al Mishnah we said it's not usher. But he could buy 2 rams. But Rabbi says even 2 rams is forbidden. Why? Lefi shein bila. Because when you bring 2 rams, you have to bring a mincha together with each ram. So it's 2 menachos. So it looks like 2 separate kabbanis.
You only had to bring one.
And he had to only bring 1, right? And so it looks really funny.
So you're mixing in again.
So Shmami no. So we have a raya that really you could change the min.
But
The only problem is that it was considered as 2 kabbanis.
it should be the same amount.
I should be saying that. Thank you, Mari. If so, my area trait. Why does the Braisa say that you can only bring 2 afilu chad nami? Even 1 you cannot bring. You're saying 2 you can bring because it's 2 separate kabbanis. Says you want to even 1 you can bring. The hub and his
You
ta'iv.
mean if it's a different animal?
Yeah. Even 1. He should have. I'm sorry. Why area today? He says, why do you say adafka by 2? He's going to be yaitza. You see, the Abana said, if he said 2, he's yaitza. If he did 1,
It's not yes.
he's not yaitza. In fact, Yemara Filachan Nami. Even when he brings 1 ayol, he should have been yaitza if he brought it instead of the shayr. The Habed Nistaiv, because it had a mum. And Rabbanon Leishanalu Bein Gadol Katan. According to Rabbanon and Al Mishnah, we learned if he made a neder, it doesn't make a difference. He can bring less, he can bring more. So
If he brings another animal, should be.
and
good?
even if it's less, it should be good. Yeah. Why do you say the only time it's going to be good according to Chachamim if he brings shnei elam? But if he brings 1, the Chacham said it's not going to be good.
a different min.
It's not because of different men. According to Chacham, all the responsibilities are off. And here it's mashma that only because he's going from a shir to 1 aisle is no good, but a shir to 2 aisle is a match in money. So what does that have to do? According to Rabbanan, we just learned in our Mishnah versus this Braisa. He can go smaller, he can go bigger. Why are we making an issue over here? After you're right. The Braisa is a different opinion than our Mishnah in the Rabbanan. In our Mishnah, you can go from bigger to smaller according to Rabbanan.
Over here.
And in the Braisa, it says only you can't go from bigger to smaller. You can't go from a shir to aisle unless it's 2 elim. It says you want to trade Tanoim Halu Rabbanan. It's really 2 Tanoim who learn according to Rabbanan. According to the Tana of our Mishnah that we just learned, they say, hey, it makes no difference. You can go Bei Magdela to Bei Mektana, Bei Mektana to Bei Magdela. But in the Braisa, the Chacham say, hey, from a Behema Gedola to a Ketana, no. L'chatchila you shouldn't. L'chatchila don't bring
Well,
one
why
item.
should be different than the Mishnah?
But the Braisa argues with the Mishnah. It's because it's 2 different opinions
You know,
in the Rabbanan. Rabbi say, and Rabbi Yoisa, look, also in the Rabbi we have a
Say
stira.
halacha is halacha. It was
Oh, so ein Amira Paskin that say, ein Amira Paskin that say.
A moide or tanoim?
Tanoim, ein Tana Paskin, ein Tana Paskin. You're right. Thank you. Rabbi Yoimel to bring 2 elim with Makim Shariachad Lefi Shein Bila. He says, Rabbi says you cannot bring 2 elim because he's bringing 2 different menachos. So it's like 2 different. It comes in 2 different kelim. And you cannot mix them into 1 keli, so it's like 2 kabbanis. So time of the Bila, the whole reason because you can't mix the 2 menachos together, so it looks like 2 kabbanis. Yesh Bila, but what's if you allow to mix the 2 menachos as 1? Shani would be mutter. How could it be mutter? Well, Tanan, and our Mishnah says, Ayuzel Elu in the stove, Ratza Yav Bedam of Kesef. Keves. If he wants, he can use the money for
the
shepsela. Keves el oila v'nistoif. He says this shepsela is for oila. It got a mum. Yav bedam of aisle. He should bring it with the money an aisle. Rabbi Yoisa. So you see, Rabbi Asers, even if it's 1 against 1. I'm sorry, Rabbi Asers. Even if he goes bigger. He started keves and the shepsela, and then he brings a ayil.
Ayil's bigger.
Sure, it's bigger. So you see, and both of them are brought with kli yachad, and we said, Rabbi said the only reason why it's disqualified because there's 2 kelim of menachos that come with 2 elim. But if it would be one keli, it would be mutter. But here in the Mishnah says it's also. So how do we answer the
It has
Mishnah?
nothing to do with Bila here.
It
Then.
has nothing to do with Bila. Says you want to trade Tanoim Rabbi. It's two Tanoim and that argue in what Shittas Rabbi is. Meaning, in the Baraisa, we learned the Tana Baraisa says Rabbi only answers because of two Menochos. But if it would be one mincha, then you would be allowed to bring a bigger one from a smaller one to a bigger one. But the Tana of our Mishnah says no, he would not be able to bring from a smaller one to a bigger one because it has to be exactly like he promised. Over to him, and then the Hemshch of the end of the Brisa says by the end of the Brisa, by Behemoth, where there was no mum, Egel, the heavy par, if he's promised to bring an Egel, and instead he brought a bigger one, he brought a bull, Keves for heavy ayil, or he promised a sheph's land, he brought a ram much bigger, Yotze is Yotze. That's for sure not Rebbe. So who's that going to? According to that end of the Brisa, Stomach Rabbanon. Mistama goes according to Rabbanon. Rabbanon said, Yesh b'chlal Masayim mana. When he brings a par, you haven't included the eagle. Says the Gemara, we learned in the Mishnah Shoyze Oila in this time. This Shoyze Oila and he got him home. Ratza, if he wants, Yav v'dam Shnayim. He could take with this money and bring two
Of the same min.
of a simin. Amarav Nashya Bar Zvit Amarav. Lo yishano elo de Amar Shoyze Oila. The only reason why the Rabbanan say he can bring another animal to a different number because the first neder is gone. Because the neder was only on that animal. And now that responsibility is not there anymore.
This is the
That's
Rabbanan.
why he can
This is
bring.
the Rabbanan, no?
Yes. Avalama shoyzeh olai oila. What's if he used the word shoyzeh? That means only this one, and then he says a lie. A lie means that it's Eifin Gavra, so he has to replace it. Zeh is Eifin Shoyer. Only this Shoyer. If the Shoyer is not here, you don't have a But then he said a lie. Eifin Gavra, I don't care if it gets lost. I'm responsible.
The whole time you're responsible.
So what's the halacha if he says both l'shenis? Zeh a lie oila hukba. Says the Gemara, then there's a chiyuv for him to replace the oila. In fact, Gemara v'dilma a lie lahavi yokama. Maybe he says zeh. And a lie doesn't mean I'm taking responsibility. He says a lie, I'm going to bring it. I'm going to be the one
to bring the code.
to bring the share to Yerushalayim to be Makadayla Kedina.
The replacement. No?
No replacement. We're saying, he said share is a lie. So this share. And what's if he used a lie? So let's say it got a mum. So
the responsibility.
We say he lost the responsibilities or not. Maybe not, because he said a lie, so he's responsible to replace it. Says no, maybe the lie is not taking responsibility. A lie is going that he's going to bring it himself. Says you want to rather if you want to learn the says you want to, and he says if you want, this is the shaila that was said in the words of Rav. Amar Rav Nashon Bazvid Amar Rav Lo Yishanu Elo De'Oma Shoyzeh Oila. Inami Amar Shoyzeh Alai Oila.
Yes, it says
Huh? No, so both cases, if the animal got lost, he's not responsible because a lie could mean that he himself is taking responsibility to bring it, but not to replace it. Says Gemara, and then he says not only shoyzeh v'damav, and also the money, the worth of it. Now he's making it clear what the lie is going on the animal, the worth of the animal. Ayla. So then he has to replace it.
Pshita.
Okay. Zag the Mishnah, somebody says, I'm giving one of the Kibsei Hegdish for the Mizbeach. Or one of the oxen, I'm giving for Hegdish. And between the Kvasim and Shvarim, he had two. So which one should he give? When he says, I'm giving an ox, so I'm giving a kevis, and he has two. Which one should he give?
The better one.
The better one goes to Hegdish. Shloisha. What's if he has three? He has Idias, Bainis, Ziburias. Which one? Maybe the Bainis. Says you might have Bainis Shabahem Hegdish. No, he says the Bainis. So you might have
Why can't you leave it to him? He said, I'm going to give one of my three oxen. So he has a choice.
Now we're afraid he's changing his mind. We have to take care of this business soon. If he specified which one is for Hegdish, but he doesn't remember. He says, my father told me at the time of his death that I'm giving one of my shepslacha, one of my oxen to Hegdish. I made for Hegdish, Ve'eni Yadei Ma, and he doesn't know which one. Haggadosh B'hem Hegdish. The bigger one goes to Hegdish.
Why?
Because we're supposed to give the best. So the
He
Gemara is
doesn't
going to
know
ask.
what his father said.
Almost so we see when it comes to Hegdish, Magdish B'ayin Yofa Magdish. When somebody's Magdish, it's Tafke B'ayin Yofa.
Why when he has three, he give the Beidini?
Oh, that's the Gemara is going to ask. Very good. They say Chadikov, the Rebbe told me, should give a raise for the Kollel. Like we were getting $180 a month then.
Well, for the Kollel.
For the Kollel. So he raised $1. So they said, wow. He says, why'd you give so much? $1 for the month, $181. He says, Kol Anoisen, the Ayin Yofa. Anyway.
You're lucky he'll give you a quarter, 50.
Exactly what over here. But Ayin Yofa, who Magdish, says, like you asked, Emer Sefer, what do you mean by Ayin Yofa? You said when he has Shloisha, you give Beidin Shabam Hagdish. Why? So we see Magdish by your own Magdish. We see you giving that the best eye. Shmuel says, no. We didn't say he gives the Beinani, he gives also the Beinani. Because the Lagabe Cotton Ayin Yafu. Because the Beinani Lagabe Cotton is also called Ayin Yafa. So that's why he has to give all the idios, the best. And the Beinani is called the best too. Lagabe the Ziburi is the Lagabe the worst. So what does he do? What does he do? He has to bring only one. We wait till the Beinani gets a mum. And once he gets a mum, look at the Shah say, Begodel. And he takes the redemption of this Beinani that had a mum and contributes it to the Gadol. So, if the Beinani wasn't the one, so it's Vel Bakumi, I mean, the Gadol is good. And if the Beinani was the one that he was supposed to bring, but he got a mum, so they transfer him to the Gadol. Only if he said one of the Shvari Hegdish. He says, when did the Chacham say he has to give the best? Only if he said Shei B'Shvari. When did he say, again, the Chacham said, when does he have to give the best and the Beinani together both? When he didn't speak clearly. He says he's giving one of the three. So one of the three, you don't know which one is the best. So which one he meant, because the Beinani is also called best. So he has to give a Beinani. Yeah, and then he has to give the Beinani and the best. But if he said clearly, Shei B'Shvari, the Shei of all my Shvarim, that's the best. So you don't have to worry about the Beinani. He meant the best. Says the Gemara, Einis Takeso V'Amar Avhuna V'Abchim Shmei Haim LeChaveri Bayis BeBeis Hanim LeChalach. He says, I'm selling you the house of my estate. Mareyu Aliyah. When he gives him the money, he shows him the attic. That's what you got. He says, Lav Mishum Digariyah, says Gemara, isn't not the reason because that he gives the worst? Says Gemara, Loi. It doesn't mean he gives him the Aliyah. It means Me'ula Shemabatim. It means he has to give him the best. Aliyah doesn't mean attic. He gives him for the best of the houses. Meisre, effect, you want Akasha Shevish, what he had this, we can't show the Salva. Yeah. So he says, the ox. So he says that's the best ox. And so too, a Sher Shal Hegdish that got mixed up with other oxen. Hagadol Shebahem Hegdish. The biggest one is Hegdish. The Kulam. And all of them, all the other oxen, Yamachu, have to be sold. For all those other people that need a Ayla. Make sure all the other animals go as oila. Udmei and chula, and the money is chulin. So it says Gemara. So why is it why does he have to sell all the other ones? If Shei B'Shvari means the best, why do you have to sell all the other ones? It says Gemara, Tigma, which case do we mean that all the other ones have to be sold? Since he got mixed up with other ones, that's why we don't know which one it is. Says what about
we had the same thing before also.
Yeah, right. We said in the Brai said that the din of the mechira of all the shvarim is by both the chain, not just by the case of shei b'shvarei, not just by the case where it got mixed up. You said the chain by the shei that got mixed up. It starts off like this: shei b'shvarei hegdesh, and then he says the chain shei hegdesh and the that kulam yimachru. So it's mashma in both cases. So you want to know the v'chein is going to take him out gadol. You pick out the most cheshiv is the one. That's the one that goes for the carbon for hegdish. Meis v'efekt yimari akasha. It says, he says, I'm giving you the house on the estate. Mar'eyu nafel. And the house fell down. So he says, oh, this is your house you bought, the one that fell down. Or the Eved, I'm selling you my best Eved. Oh, Mace, and the Eved died. Mar'eyu, he shows him the dead Eved. A whole bunch of Avadim, and shicked him to the Taita one or to the house that fell down. He says, what can I do? The house fell down. He said, Bay is Bebesi. He said, so let's say, hey, the Nafal, hey, the Mace. Let's look at the house and shots up if it's the best house that fell. Or maybe there's a better house out there than the one that fell, and that's the one that belongs to him. Or maybe the Eved that died is Ashvat.
But you said this house.
No, he says the house, the best.
I know. We have
So let's see if it was the best house that fell. He's saying. Maybe it was a schwache Stubas and you found can't be too good. And the Eved that died couldn't have been the best Eved. He was already died. A schwache Eved, yeah. Says he wanted like Keach comment. You're talking about a buyer. Shinali Keach. The Yad Bal Ashtal Tachtoina. When it comes to Keach, when he's holding a shtar, he's al Tachtoina because who's holding the Eved? Who has the house? The Balabas. You want to be Meitzim Mechaver Al Rayet, and you got to bring proof. Hashdas the Hachi. So now we can learn the first brisa that you don't have to learn that when he sells them not the aliyah. It means the best. No, you can say he sells them the aliyah until he brings him proof he meant the best. Okay, stop here.